R.O.C. Restore our community. R.O.C. Restore our community. R.O.C. Restore our community. R.O.C. Restore our community. Wanda P's on a mission to R.O.C. Restore our community. Assuming the task, taking on the responsibility. One block at a time, one young mind at a time. We have to strive and believe in order to affect change.
Hello and welcome to R.O.C. I'm your host, Wanda P. This is Restore Our Communities. And today I have a very informative show for you today, a very sensitive show that's really near and dear to my heart. It is about R.M.C, Renal Medullary Carcinoma, which was the disease that my daughter was diagnosed with. She battled it and she ultimately succumbed to R.M.C, renal medullary carcinoma, which is the disease that is associated with sickle cell trait. But today I have some people going to talk more into detail about what's going on. We have two very important people here. I have with me my sister, Miss Cora. Cora, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me, Wanda. It's good to see you.
Yes, it's great to see you too. And we have also with us an expert on the sickle cell disease period, which is Dr. Ameila Bryant, very good friend of mine. How are you doing, Dr. Bryant?
I am doing great, and I am thrilled to see the two of you.
Yes, ma'am. So as we say, I'm gonna go get started with Cora. Cora, tell our audience who you are and what is your purpose?
My name is Cora Connor, and my brother was diagnosed with R.M.C in 2012 at the age of 26. That's when I became involved. I noticed there was really nothing out there, lack of awareness, no one else that we could speak with about R.M.C. So I developed a nonprofit organization. Through that organization, we've met countless people. I've lost count. It's way too many people to count who have been diagnosed with this disease. That's when I met you and Rekita back in 2015. I remember her best friend at the time, Toya, reached out to me through the website and wanted to speak with someone who was going through the same thing. So I was able to speak with Rekita that afternoon. And then I think you were flying in that same day. And then we spoke briefly as well. So that's how I became involved with R.M.C, just a lack of awareness, wanting to raise awareness about the disease, create funding to help research and things like that.
Wow, and Cora, and you, I want to put a pin right there and just go back, hearing my daughter tell me for the first time that she had this disease. We went through the surgery, her kidney was taken out on February 15, 2015. And then when she was diagnosed with this rare cancer, because they didn't know what it was, like only old people get this. So she had this room of doctors coming in, and nobody could understand what this disease was. And her stepmother at the time had mentioned that when she heard the story, that it was someone that she knew had the disease. Check about R.M.C. So we were like, we were grateful for that, right? So we started looking into that afterwards, just when Toya got in contact with you. And when I was flying back to Chicago from Nashville, so that I can be with her for this meeting, they were so excited. We met this lady, her name is Cora, her brother has it. Oh my God, she was so sweet, blah, blah, blah. And it was just amazing how just from that day, them meeting you, I knew you then when we met, we just never left each other's side and believing in what each other can do as far as this understanding with R.M.C, because it is a orphan cancer, as we learned, from the media perspective. I took that and I wanted to do what I could. You were already doing some things. I think that you definitely, kudos are off to you, because my daughter couldn't have found you. All of the people that go to your website, what is this disease, R.M.C? Because African Americans and people of color are predominantly the ones that get this disease. So I just want to say we thank you, and we're sisters for life now, because my daughter, she loved you. And there was a story I remember when she went to the doctor, because they both were getting their treatments at MD Anderson in Houston. And I remember I couldn't go with her. I think I was babysitting my grandson at the time. And so when she went, my niece went with her. And my niece said, she said, dang, Auntie, Prissy, Rekita saw Herman. And she said, that's him, that's him. And she said, excuse me, are you Herman? And he said, yeah. She said, you thought she saw a rock star. I said, well, she did, Prissy. She did see a rock star, because this man is still alive with this disease. He's been fighting this disease for so many years at the time. And I want you to tell that story on how your brother is still one of the very few that still have it. And then we're going to bring Dr. Bryant into the equation, talking from the perspective of what she knows about sickle cell and that family. Go ahead and talk a little bit about Herman.
So Herman was diagnosed in 2012, and we live in Charleston, South Carolina. The hospital here, they didn't know anything about the cancer that he had.
Mm-hmm.
They basically told him, you know, there's nothing they can do here for him. Well, Herman was already in touch with Dr. Tenier at MD Anderson, and Dr. Tenier let him know, if you get here, I'll do anything I can to help you. And so that's what we did. We traveled to MD Anderson. Herman received chemotherapy for 2 years. And after those 2 years with the scans, he was cancer-free, and he's remained cancer-free since. It's been, this year will be 9 years that he was diagnosed with R.M.C.
Pause right there. So after 2 years, you said after 2 years, he was cancer-free of R.M.C.?
Yeah, so he was going through the chemotherapy. He had his kidney removed, his right kidney was removed. He continued chemotherapy after he had his nephrectomy, and he was essentially cancer-free after the 2 years.
Wow, and it is so amazing that when we'll talk more about that, of the things that we got involved in with all of the doctors, because, you know, we inspired Dr. Tenier to go and do connect with doctors from all over the world. We met at Vanderbilt in 2016,
Yes.
which I want to bring you in now, Dr. Bryant, because even though you weren't on the list, I got you in there. So come on in, because when I found out who you were and your connection with this sickle cell disease, let's talk about that. Who are you? What is your purpose, Dr. Bryant?
Well, my name is Dr. Ameila Bryant, and I was a longtime employee at Vanderbilt Children's Hospital for about 29 years. And at that point, I came in contact with children that had the sickle cell disease, but no one was ever diagnosed as having just the trait, and they did not have R.M.C. So at that time, we weren't really looking at this, and this is going back into the 70s. So as time went along, things became more traumatic and more advanced. And we began to see these type patients, but still there wasn't that much going on with them, because that R.M.C. is considered as a rare disease. And they say it's not something that you see every day, because it's not being diagnosed every day. And I think that that's one of the hidden factors about it also, is that you might come in and you are found to have sickle cell disease, but you may not be diagnosed with sickle cell trait. And then you are looked at totally different. Just totally different. And so the treatments are more or less somewhat different too, because all they could do and all that was being done is focusing on the symptoms at the time. And so the majority of individuals, when they were having the pain in various parts of their joints, the treatment at that time was a transfusion, because the transfusion was going to add more red blood cells to the circulation, which is the round blood cells instead of the sickle blood cell. And so after you've had so many transfusions, and your blood cells has changed and you have more of the round blood cells instead of the sickle ones, then you start feeling better because the pain is going to be somewhat alleviated. And so that's more or less like a crisis situation, what's going on with you then. But eventually you start feeling better and you go home. But it happens all over again. And what we begin to look at as time goes on is the importance of genetics. And genetics really needs to be done. Parents really need the education.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
then the child himself or herself needs to be educated also, because this is going to be a lifelong process. And R.M.C. is a disease aspect that develops as life does go on. Because usually when you are an infant, you aren't going to find yourself having these symptoms. And some of these symptoms are hematuria, which is blood in your urine. And that is not something that's usually focused on unless something significant has happened, like maybe you've been in some type of traumatic accident and they think you might have injured your kidneys or something. And then you're going to start having your urine test. Otherwise, it's not something that's done on a routine basis. And then there is the abdominal pain, and there's the flank pain, something what a young child would not be talking about.
And when you say, go ahead, Dr. Bryant. Oh God.
And so you think that it's a lot of other different things when you do become aware of it, because who would think R.M.C. is not something that's been screened for, although you were told back a long time ago, maybe that your child had the sickle cell trait. But when you're told about the sickle cell trait, it's different from sickle cell disease. So the sickle cell disease is really focused on, and it's talked about, how you need the genetic testing, and there needs to be more education. But with the sickle cell trait, it's very low key. So you don't hear that much about it.
And Dr. Bryant, you said so much that, Cora, and I definitely want you to chime in because I would like to know from the beginning, because everything you just said, my daughter was born a preemie. She was 3 pounds, 3 ounces at birth. She almost died when she was, when I had when I was like 7 months. So I went, and I talk about this in the book that's coming out about her life on her birthday on February 17th. I'm looking, as I understood this, because I learned about this in by and by, like I say, just through Cora, and then a team of people I worked with while I was back in Nashville, we started researching what R.M.C. was. But my daughter had them. You know what I called her, old lady? You acting like a little old lady. She complained about those things. And guess what? I was told, and it took a girlfriend that we were like sisters. Her entire family had sickle cell anemia way back when. Her mother even supposedly died from lupus, but I beg to differ now because it could have been that. But she said, no, Wanda, you knew she had it. I said, no, I didn't know she had it. So she got it from her dad when you talk about mating. So I do understand that we need to understand, we have to understand people that we are having children with and we're procreating with. So those things we did know. And the last thing I would say before I bring Cora in was back in the 70s, I remember this like it was, we had assemblies and they brought it in. They talked about sickle cell anemia. I remember watching the charge from the stage. So they had that in the schools. They talked about sickle cell anemia, sickle cell trait in the schools. I remember that. It's no longer there. So we had it, but it was taken out. We forget, because when something's out in front of you, you tend to forget, or whatever. So Cora, what I like to hear from you, when did Herman know? Or when did he have signs? Because my daughter had the signs. I just didn't even know what they were.
Yeah, Herman had signs for a while. He was experiencing really bad back pain for a long time, several months. And he just dismissed it because he's fit, he was healthy. Yeah, young, his entire life. He never really, only had a common cold once so often, So at the time he was working out a lot, and he thought maybe he pulled a muscle, or maybe it was time to change his mattress because he had the mattress for a while. And then the pain just got unbearable. And finally, what drove him to the emergency department was he saw blood in his urine one morning, and it was a lot of blood in his urine. And he went to the emergency department, and they did an x-ray, and they saw a mass inside of his right kidney. And the doctor told him, they can't tell you in the emergency department you have cancer. They just said, you have a mass that looks suspicious for cancer. So you need to follow up with a urologist. And from there, it seemed like it took several months. There was nothing available until months later down the line. And my sister, she was able to help him get that appointment changed, but we had to drive maybe 4 hours upstate just to see a urologist to get some sort of diagnosis. And that's what we did, and they let him know then it was R.M.C. And from there, the doctor wanted to wait several more months later to do a biopsy. And we know with R.M.C., there's just no time to schedule those appointments months out like that, so we really had to make a move. And I'm glad Herman did his own research online, because the rest of our family, we were really devastated at that time. I was researching, our sister in Colorado, she was also researching, but Herman, he really did his own research. And, he found Dr. Tenier and reached out to him from the beginning. Yeah, but he had those signs, the back pain, he had night sweats, the blood in the urine, and he knew that wasn't normal. When he saw that, he just knew something is wrong.
Wow. I'm just tearing up. I'm trying to say I was going to cry in this, but this is just that show. If it comes out, it comes out. And when I hear the similarities, and there's so many people that's watching this show, that's going to watch this show, and if you're young, because we know the age, when we started researching, like you said, once she was discovered that she had R.M.C., they wanted her to wait. She was at a very prestigious hospital here in Chicago, and they just didn't know. And the callousness to me of the doctors, oh, well, you have to take, I'm going to get with some doctors, and we're going to give you chemotherapy, maybe azithromycin and some other stuff, but you could probably die after 3 months. So we're looking like, damn, do you see we're in the room? And so it's just like really, really cold. So as we shared the story, which my daughter was loved by so many people, Ledessa was the one that found MD Anderson. And when they were able to, we found MD Anderson, she got everything done except for signing the signature. And that's when I stepped in. And of course, once Dr. Tenier, I think the very first, Gloria, his secretary, when Gloria first heard what I was doing, she was like, oh my God, I got to put you in contact with Dr. Tenier, because more African Americans in the medical field need to know about this, because there's so many people that they have access to, so many people in our community to really look for these signs, which we never looked for before. So when I took that and called her, oh, you acting like an old lady, come on, girl. She had arthritis. She was having those pains, the kidneys. And when she found out that before the diagnosis, she was exercising, and the pain just got worse in her kidney. And so that brings us back to what we're going to do. We're going to take a commercial break. And when we come back, we're gonna dive into what happened at the Sporbic meeting that we had in Vanderbilt, and just see how more people can get involved. We'll be right back.
Yo, this your girl Sarah F., the host of Triple P Radio. We promote all positive men and women are doing and have done well incarcerated. Check out these amazing interviews from the men and women doing time. Triple P Radio is the voice for the voiceless and the first step in giving them a second chance. Tune into WMSKOnlineradio.com Sundays from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can also follow us on Instagram, Triple P_radio. Peace and blessings.
R.O.C, Restore Our Communities, is a media-based organization that helps other organizations and individuals make a difference in our neighborhood. R.O.C will give them an opportunity to let the families know all about their various programs, such as after-school activities for youth, tutoring, family crisis, drug awareness, education, domestic violence. R.O.C has even partnered with the local police department in our city to find solutions to all of our senseless crimes in our underprivileged communities. For more information, contact a representative of R.O.C today. Subscribe to R.O.C TV, Wanda Powell.
And we are back. And boy, I tell you what, this is a very informative show. I have with me my sister, Cora Connor, who is the founder of an R.M.C Foundation. And we have also with us Dr. Ameila Bryant, who can tell you a whole bunch of stuff about sickle cell anemia and trait. And we're going to go to Dr. Bryant, and we're going to, and you say you dealt with you were in pediatrics for 29 years. So you are aware when a child is born that they go home if they have sickle cell traits or diagnosed with that, correct?
Yes. And especially at Medullary Hubbard Hospital, the sickle cell screening was done, I would say there, more so than anywhere else, although it's now being done at other hospitals. But at Medullary, especially when the screening was done, the results of these screenings were sent to the parent and the pediatrician, and sometimes even the obstetric doctor received it also. And the plan was there was supposed to be genetic counseling that was started. But when you give the parents this information, they have to get back in touch with you. And when they don't get back in touch with you, you lose contact with them. And that's a bad thing, because that cuts off all the need for the screening, because then no one else is going to know about it. Because as we said previously, this isn't something that's normally done. You can't just, you don't just come in and get screened for RMC. And it's sort of like some of the other diseases that's out there, just like diabetes, for instance, is well talked about now, but there hasn't always been screening out there for diabetes. And what was trying to be initiated in bringing in all of those physicians from other countries was to establish some form of screening, because by the time RMC is actually diagnosed, the individual is usually in their third or fourth stage.
Right.
And the outlook is not good at that point. It's not good at all. And even now, they're saying that if the cancerous cell remains capsulated, then that is a good thing, because it gives you a better percentage. But it has the opportunity to venture outside, which is really bad, because then it can go to other organs and it's going to cause problems elsewhere in the body. And oftentimes it's giving different symptoms and it throws the physicians off.
So what are those symptoms?
Of some of the same type things. You might start having problems in your liver. You might start having problems you might have some heart problems, or you could go down. And that's why I said it's frightening, because you end up with these different symptoms. And when they don't already know that RMC is what's lurking around in your body. So it is something that they have to find. They have to search it out, and they have to find it.
Yeah.
And it's a difficult thing to do because number one, it's not something that's happening every day like some of these other cancers that exist. And so you already have the mindset as this is what we should be looking for. But with RMC, it's not like that because there aren't those many people being diagnosed with RMC. And another thing, and even when they pass away, the diagnosis is still not always made. It's something else. And you can, and I know you can talk about that because I remember you mentioned that to me about what had happened with your doctor.
Right. Which is, I remember, and thank you, Cora. I'm gonna tag it over to Cora. Thank you, Cora, for making sure, because there were so many people that were passing away within months. We this wasn't even talking about a year. These people were passing away within months after reaching out to Cora. Her website, which we're gonna give that out, is so full of stories and young people. And she was telling me about an incident. She said, well, will you make sure that your daughter's death certificate has RMC, because it has to be labeled that. When she passed away, she was in hospice. The hospice doctor never did one thing with my daughter, never even seen my daughter, but yet you sign her birth certificate and say she passed away from kidney cancer? No. So they have to, it was sent back from the funeral home. It was sent back and they did a revision, and she passed away. On her death certificate, it says RMC, renal medullary carcinoma. So this is the other reason why it's imperative for us to be able to go out to other people that's similar. And I know people don't want to talk about this. Again, I'm writing her book. It was hard to finish that book, but I had to do it because her life is not going to be in vain. And I wanted Cora to talk more about her website and some of the stories that you can just share. Journey, that 13-year-old girl. Oh, ooh. Talk about your website and give that information as you talk about it.
The website is www.rmcsupport.org. A lot of people, when they Google, once they're diagnosed with RMC, most people will turn to Google and, of course, Google renal medullary carcinoma. And they want to see, are there any survivors? They look for that. We did the same thing. Unfortunately, at that time, we couldn't find anyone. So most people will come across Herman's story and they will contact me, and then I'm able to help them get in touch with Dr. Masal, who works with Dr. Tenair,
Okay.
and Dr. Tenair as well. And they're able to either consult with their doctors if they're unable to get to MD Anderson, and some are able to make it to MD Anderson. There's patients all over the world. There's one now in Switzerland. This is the second patient in Switzerland. They're consulting with one of the doctors that we met with at the Forbeck Foundation. They're consulting with him and with MD Anderson as well. So it's good to have those resources out there. A lot of times patients are misdiagnosed with, asthma, bronchitis, kidney stones. And doctors a lot of them have just never seen RMC, so they don't know what to look for. When you see a young patient who is otherwise healthy, they're not thinking kidney cancer. Normally, kidney cancer is found in older patients. So the website is there for us to be able to help patients navigate to get to other doctors, even if it's not MD Anderson, maybe someone in their state. We have other organizations who have been such a huge help. Casey Keir, Dina Battle, she awarded MD Anderson, Dr. Masal, with a $25,000 grant for research. So that's a really big help for the RMC community, because it hasn't been any funding at all, as over the years.
But probably will be changing the tone of this. We know that COVID-19 is out, and everybody, people that have cancers and any other disease, nobody has really talked about that. But I just want to say that I thank God for each of us being able to cross paths with one another. How Toya looked you up, and because If it was my daughter, she was stressed, and she was diagnosed at the age of 32 years old. She had a 6-year-old son. My life was turned upside down. I had to leave. I was teaching school in Nashville, and I had to leave. And hearing this devastating information that my daughter was telling me, I wasn't there. I felt bad enough that we were already distant with my grandson, and so I can just only imagine. You know, children are not supposed to pass away before their parents. You know,
No.
it's out of order. And so I want to thank you guys for being able to be a part of that. And Dr. Bryant, let's give your information out. You want anyone to get in contact with you, and also before you get after you get information out, no, before you get information out, let me tell you this quick story. Dr. Bryant and I have been friends for about 5 years, y'all, for real, for real. We were on an organization called Real Ministries. Everybody was doing something in the community, 5 years. But let you know how just, you know, you're all over the place. It wasn't until we got the word that my daughter was sick, and I think I missed a few of the meetings. I think you had asked what happened. And I think when I sent the information out about my daughter, this is what's happening. And I talked a little bit about the disease. Dr. Bryant, you call, and I had you on the call because at this point I got a team of people now. What are we gonna do? I got to stay strong here. Dr. Bryant, you got on the phone. You said, my name is Dr. Ameila Bryant, and I work with sickle cell anemia patients at Vanderbilt and at Meharry, and I'm also a member of Zeta Phi Beta sorority. And my breath was taken away. Because I knew that God has sent you my way. We have been friends for 5 years. And when you said that, I want to segue this interview into, my daughter was a Zeta. And when I told you that, you said it was just amazing. You are just connected. And even with you connecting with these girls now, talk a little bit about the Zeta organization and what you guys are doing, because it's definitely a noteworthy organization that people need to know about, and people are going to know about my daughter. Go ahead.
Well, right now the Zetas are getting really geared up to open back up. And when I say open back up, that is our stork's nest. And it has to do with the prenatal individuals within various communities. We have found that there is a direct need for those individuals because they're having like low birth weight babies. A lot of them are not eating correctly. They are not making their visits the way that they should. And so we are there to help them, to guide them so that these things won't happen. And there is a prenatal mortality and also maternal mortality. And we are trying to alleviate all of that. And so since the pandemic, we had sort of closed down, but now we have opened back. And we have new strategies now that we're using, and we're trying to bring in more of our mothers. We have incentives for you. There once was a time when we were letting you come to the Stork's Nest and do your shopping, finding the various things that you need. But now, because of the pandemic, we will be giving you gift cards. And each time you complete a session, you will get a gift card. And totally, you can end up with $60 worth of gift cards. And if you feel the need to go back through the program again, you are welcome to do so. And you can collect more gift cards, just as many as you can need. And we're also going to have a specialist from the community to also assist with the teaching that's going to go on with you. And so if you have any special needs, we are going to be there to meet those needs. And as I said, you're going to have specialists that will be talking with you. They will have license, and they have been through all of this before, so they're going to be very, very valuable. And we'd
Okay.
like to ask all of you to participate.
Okay, we're gonna definitely make sure we have that information in writing so that people will be able to give that. But also, let's give your information if someone wanted to contact you. Dr.
Okay, I have an email address where I could be contacted, which is abryanta17@gmail.com.
We're gonna have it at the bottom of the screen and everything. All right.
Okay. And then a phone number also. There's a home phone number and also a cell phone number. Is that going to be on the screen also?
Yes, yes it is.
Okay. Okay, because I am the coordinator of the Stork's Nest for Pi Zeta here
Okay.
here in Nashville, and we are trying to get as many mothers and their partners involved with this as possible.
Oh, absolutely. We'll definitely make sure that we'll have it on all of the different social networks that I have. I'm sure we'll make sure we share that information. Okay, Cora, give us some information again on some last parting words that you want to share with somebody who's going through what I've gone through. And trust me, they say my one vote don't count. Your one vote counts.
I'd like to let anyone know who's going through RMC right now and their families, or who have gone through RMC and the families, that there is hope, to just stay strong and trust and believe, that your loved one can beat this. For those who have passed away, that we just pray for the families and ask God to give you all strength to continue on. And thank you as well for continuing to educate others about RMC and other things in the community. You've been a really strong voice for a lot of people, and we just thank you for your strength and for your encouraging words. Your daughter, she lifted me up several days. My children were still a little younger at the time, and I remember my middle son, Tori, there was some incident, I can't even remember what happened, but I think he was having some challenges. And she just really uplifted me. I'll never forget our phone conversation. She always had such an encouraging word, just to lift someone's spirits, and just her sweet voice and demeanor. It really meant a lot. And I was thinking, I told her, I said, I'm sitting here with my problems, talking to you, and I should be the one lifting you up right now. She was like, that's okay. We all go through things sometimes. And I just really appreciated that. I remember when she called me that day from the hospital, and I was at work. Actually, I had to step out of the office, and she was just so excited to have met Herman. And they went outside and they prayed, and Herman just encouraged her and to let her know, about keeping a positive attitude throughout this entire, I don't know if I should say journey or challenge, or just through the entire thing that she was going through. And she did. And she told me, she said, Cora, I'm ready to keep fighting. I'm not going to quit.
Wait till you read this book. When I tell you this book is about her life and telling about what's happening, she fought to the bitter end. That's why it was hard for me to write it, because I had to relive it. Yeah. When I tell you, Herman, when he touched her hand, he gave her hope, because they had gave up. They gave up. There was nothing else to do. But she lived 120 days when they said that she only had a few days to live.
Yes, I remember that. She was definitely a fighter.
Right. Let's give your website. I got give your information, Cora.
It is www.rmcsupport.org. The email address is contact@rmcsupport. And the phone number is 702-337-CURE, CURE, or 2863.
It's on the screen.
Okay, CURE.
Yeah.
Um,
Sometimes, yeah, it's like trying to remember your own phone number. What's the number?
I know.
But it was a joy. I just really appreciate the information that we've gotten here. And this is not going to be our last time talking about R.M.C. because I said her book will be coming out. I'm so excited about that. And God is just really working a miracle with that. And I just pray that this book will be something that it can uplift other people. It was a long time coming, but it's coming out when God wants it to come out, because there was so much information that had not yet been written. And that's all I got to say about that. So it's just really good. And my sister Cora Connor of R.M.C. support. And I want to thank you, Dr. Ameila, Bryant, my friend, my daughter's friends, both of you guys from her Zetas. I wish you guys well, and definitely stay safe in this craziness out here. We will be in touch again. Remember that God loves you, and so do we.
R.O.C. Restore our community. R.O.C. Restore our community. R.O.C. Restore our community. R.O.C. Restore our community. Wanda P's on a mission to R.O.C. Restore our community. Assuming the task, taking on the responsibility. One block at a time, one young mind at a time. We have to strive and believe in order to affect change and achieve.
Remember to stay safe by washing your hands often.
All of us.
Stay 6
The
feet
time
away
is past for us to
and
just sit
always
around
wear your
being
mask when you're in
spectators.
public.
We gotta get out in the R.O.C. Restore our community. R.O.C. Restore our community. R.O.C. Restore our community. R.O.C. Restore our community. Wanda P's on a mission to R.O.C. Restore our community. Assuming the task, taking on the responsibility. One block at a time, one young mind at a time. We have to strive and believe in order to affect change and achieve. Creating pathways to greatness that exists within all of us. The time is past for us to just sit around being spectators. We gotta get out in the game and become initiators. Reestablish the lost lines of communication. Resurrect our fallen nation. That's why Wanda P is on a mission to R.O.C. Restore our community. 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 Wanda P's on a mission to R.O.C. Restore our community. Restore the pride, strength, and dignity that was once ours in great abundance. We're only as strong as our weakest link. Time to take charge of the construction of our destinies. Rise above the acceptance of poverty. Don't just talk about it, we gotta be about it. Every step of the way, every hour of the day. If you don't make it happen, it'll never get done. That's why Wanda P is on a mission to R.O.C. Restore our community.